They just keep having meetings, whether it be Vladimir Putin coming to the United States of America or whether it be European leaders coming to the United States of America, and there is no negotiation. What is going on? They just keep saying it's at the table, it's imminent, but they never actually define what the terms are. And they don't even, like, we don't even know. It's just a meeting about a meeting. It's a meeting about a meeting for another meeting in the future at a certain point, at a certain date. And I truly don't understand what is happening here. Blue Anon was right. Just admit it. Wake up, Hasanabi. No, I don't think it's like Agent Krasnov shit. I said this already. Looking at what has taken place so far, especially in the aftermath of that Trump meeting with Vladimir Putin, I came to the conclusion that is maybe not so great for a lot of American dominance enjoyers, American hegemony enjoyers. But I came to this conclusion that, like, I think Trump doesn't have any other way out of this. I don't think any American president would have a different way out of this. It's just like they tried it. They tried to, atrophy the Russian military. They tried to destroy the Russian economy in the process with the mother of all sanctions. And ultimately, Putin kind of won. And I don't know, like when Trump said to Zelensky, you don't hold all the cards. I think he after this meeting with Vladimir Putin, I realized that, I mean, America doesn't have any of the cards here either. Because if, like, the ultimate solution here is just like an escalation to nuclear warfare, in that regard, this is one of the first instances where, like, a direct military intervention from a foreign adversary against an American proxy, against a Western proxy, if you want to see it that way, led to the foreign adversary winning. It's just because there's nothing else that the Western world could do. There's nothing else that the Western world could do in this regard. I wouldn't even consider Afghanistan to be similar to this. Vietnam is a good example, I would say. Korea turned into a stalemate. Vietnam is a complete defeat for American interests, for sure. But even then, like, this is like with Vietnam, America was the Russia and didn't even have the same kind of ambition that Russia has with Ukraine, because it's not in their backyard. Vietnam is not America's neighbor, and America was militarily invading Vietnam. It's like if America invaded Mexico and then Russia and China were boosting the Mexican defenses to withstand like an American annexation. That would be the equivalent. Do you see what I mean? Like, Vietnam is America creating a puppet state and trying to maintain some kind of control over the entire country through South Vietnam with puppet leadership. Whereas, like, the USSR is obviously funding and is invested in the defense of the North Vietnamese liberation. But, like, while that is also somewhat of a proxy, it's not a direct equivalent. Whereas Russia's actions, I say, is irredentist. With the investment into annexation, like permanent territory acquisition, and they seemingly won. They got their desire. Russia lost McDonald's because of this war. Now they're eating healthier, and Trump got scared seeing how low the Russian military's cholesterol results are. Okay, dude. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, is what I mean. It just, like, they talk about how there is going to be a managed resolution, an end to this conflict. Russia's interest in Ukraine, in the most charitable interpretation, is to maintain control over Ukraine, to not allow Ukraine, which is directly its neighbor, to be in the grips of Western influence. Okay? Regardless of what the Ukrainian population thinks, by the way. I'm not talking about, like, the Ukrainian sovereignty. I'm not talking about the wishes of the Ukrainian population at all. I'm simply saying, like, Russia's goals was territorial acquisition, halting any sort of, like, NATO intervention in a country that has proximity to strike the Kremlin, right? They obviously also, with Crimea, wanted to protect their point of entry into the Black Sea, all that stuff. But I bracket that off separately, because it does seem like even the European leaders and Ukraine has basically dropped Crimea from the equation. It seems like if they were to give Crimea permanent recognition, like permanent annexation recognition, legal recognition, as is, and say it's like Russian territory. And then in extraction for that, they got the Russians to pull back from like certain Eastern Ukrainian positions. That would be an insanely good proposition. It's just not even going to happen regardless, right? So that's, but it seems like even the Western leadership is on board with that. But overall, I feel like I feel like they're not getting anything out of this, anything out of these talks at all. It's just like Putin getting everything he wanted, and I don't know if there's any alternative to that anyway. I don't know what the alternative is to this. Like, what's the alternative? Because it's not even at a stalemate. Russia was able to acquire even more territory in eastern Ukraine. This pic shows a bit of the map that Zelensky told Trump he really liked. It shows the percentage occupied by Russia. I mean, I can't really fucking see it. I don't get one thing. The West is telling how important Ukraine is for their safety and how important it is to provide them with weapons because they should not lose the war. Why the fuck don't they send their own soldiers then? As long as Ukrainians die, it's a war they should be fought. The fuck? The reason why they won't send their own soldiers is because all of the countries that have the capability of sending military into Ukraine to defend Ukraine, well, one, that would be unimaginably unpopular. Okay, as long as it's just Ukrainians dying and it's they're using Western weapons, then they can manage that. Okay, that's number one. So domestic unpopularity is a major factor here. But the second part of the equation, perhaps the most significant part of the equation, is that if two nuclear armed nations or any nation that is under a nuclear security treaty like NATO were to go to war with one another, like official hot war with one another, that would trigger nuclear holocaust. That would trigger mutually assured destruction. That is the reason why they haven't sent troops into Ukraine. That's the biggest reason. And I think Vladimir Putin knows that. And that's part of the reason why he was able to push and push and push into Ukraine, knowing full well that they would not be able to amount a significant military force to withstand the Russian meat grinder trench warfare techniques, where they just basically bum rush further and further into Ukrainian territory because it's a significantly larger country. So NATO, which in other circumstances is supposed to be a security agreement, right, ended up becoming a bit of a problem for American interests, because that way you can't get France or the UK or Germany to send in troops to Ukraine because they're a part of NATO. That way you can't get Turkey to send troops into Ukraine because they're a part of NATO. If the Turkish military is directly in hot battle with the Russian military, all of a sudden Russia and Turkey are in war. If Russia attacks Turkey, okay, then you're triggering Article 5. Now you have a nuclear arms treaty going up against a foreign adversary that it was designed to be that it was designed to threaten, that also has nuclear arms. So in a weird way, NATO actually ends up being an anchor around the weight of American foreign policy, only because Russia was able to succeed militarily. This is why I kept saying, like, one of the weird solutions that I see is like is it's not going to happen, but one of the only solutions in this circumstance is, like, if you truly want to militarily defeat Russia, you have to go and fight to defend Ukraine. That's it. You have to send soldiers to defend Ukraine. That's an incredibly unpopular prospect to begin with. That opens you up to Russian counters. That opens you up to going into battle with Russia, and you can't do that when you have NATO anyway. For some reason, I'm skeptical that most NATO countries would actually go to arms if Article 5 was triggered. I feel like a lot of them would try to find some loophole to justify not doing it. I don't disagree with you. I think I've said this before. I don't think America would, like, the American calculation of, like, defending Poland or defending Estonia, Lithuania, any of the Baltic countries does not revolve around, like, genuinely caring about the lives of people that live in the former Eastern Bloc or whatever. It actually is about defending America's military prowess around the globe. And in that situation, if Russia had the smoke, they would just let it go, potentially. It is crazy that he said he likes this map. Trump says Zelensky can end the war now if he wants to. President Zelensky of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, or he can continue to fight Remember how it started. No getting back Obama giving Crimea 12 years ago without a shot being fired, and no going into NATO by Ukraine. Some things never change. Trump announced that Ukraine will not get Crimea back and no NATO for Ukraine. Ukraine has to take the L here. No, like it sucks. Russia was unjustifiably aggressive, but as an American who doesn't want more wars, we have to make Zell Disney take this deal. No. I mean, I think that Zelensky doesn't have a say in this process at all. Not even from the start. So I think this is more so just like America trying to find a good PR way to get out of this. What are you even saying, lol? What do you mean? I'm not even. It's not even about like making Zelensky hold the L or something. Okay, because he's already doing that. He's going above and beyond by shitting on Zelensky like the last time he had that meeting. It was embarrassing. It was disgusting. It was fucked up. But I think that also serves a role in basically making it seem like America's washing his hands from this. And it was maybe just the foreign leadership or the former leadership's fault that America's even in this quagmire to begin with. I'm worried that after the war ends, Europe and the U.S. will try to normalize relations with Russia and they will never face accountability. There's really no justice when state actors are involved, huh? Yes. If the West had been even more supportive early on, letting Ukraine use long-range missiles, sending jets, and setting up a no-fly zone, etc., is there any chance this could have turned out differently? No, because no-fly zone was always a red line that they were not going to cross for the reasons that I mentioned. It's like the same as sending fucking military. Do you not understand? You cannot establish a no-fly zone by saying, it's a no-fly zone now. You have to set up military deterrence, and Ukraine doesn't have the capabilities because they tried to destroy like Russian air superiority early on. They were able to take out a bunch of. I mean, they were able to establish some semblance of deterrence with anti-aircraft weaponry and things like that with the Ukrainian Air Force. But overall, a no-fly zone could only be implemented by Western forces and their Western air forces specifically. And that would require, just like sending military troops on the ground into Ukraine, that would require having, Polish Air Force fly over the Ukrainian airspace to literally shoot down Russian aircrafts. That would be the same as going into direct battle. And as long as Poland and as long as all these other countries are under the security banner of NATO, then that is the maximalist position. It automatically triggers nuclear deterrence. It automatically triggers nuclear retaliation, and that's the reason why they never did it. That's the reason why it was a non-starter. It wasn't even like no serious person was actually discussing these options.